Hello and welcome to today's Industry Solutions webinar. My name is Lisa Stewart and I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator here at 12D Solutions. While we wait for everyone to finish joining and get comfortable, I'll launch a polling question. You'll have about 30 seconds to answer about whether you attended this year's technical forum, and then I'll show the results. Okay, almost 50-50 of people wanting to relive the fun and people wanting to know what they missed. Welcome everyone. Okay, let's get started. Our Industry Solutions webinars are designed to provide insights into overcoming challenges in an evolving industry in more effective and efficient ways. We'll keep running these webinars regularly and recording them for posting on our YouTube channels with links through our website. Our first 43 webinars from this Industry Solutions series, as well as the 46 webinars from our training series, are available online if you missed those. During this live presentation, you'll be able to type your questions along the way, as shown on the screen, and we'll answer as many as possible throughout the webinar. At the end, I'll read out some of your questions to the presenter if there's time. Today's webinar, 12D Technical Forum 2018, a review, will be presented by 12D Solutions Managing Director and Co-founder, Dr. Lee Gregory. He'll give us a brief summary of some of the topics covered at our record-breaking 12D International Technical Forum 2018, which was held in the Grey Street section of Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre recently, and he'll reveal the winners of the 12D International Innovation Awards and some other interesting tidbits you might have missed. Over to you, Lee.
Thank you, Lisa. Wow, what a fantastic 3 days we had at the 12D International Technical Forum in 2018. It was even more special because we had 3 generations of Gregorys there. Dale and myself, our sons Joel and Blake, that's Blake on the computer there, and our first grandchild, Lachlan Gregory, who I was able to proudly introduce to the audience. So at 12D, we not only plan for the future, but we breed for the future. The conference topic this time was pushing the boundaries. 12D model started in 1991 as a preliminary design tool for roads, but since then has expanded to include all facets of civil design and surveying. And we continue to push the boundaries of what 12D model and now 12D Synergy can be used for. This includes being at the forefront of civil BIM, which is very, very important. And everyone was using a civil BIM at the talks in the conference. Our support for things like ADAC, AR&R 2016, GDA 2020, and continuing to automate design and drafting. And of course, to increase the functionality of 12D Synergy as the one source of truth for data and documents. So the 12D Technical Forum highlighted these and many more boundary pushing activities using both 12D model and 12D Synergy. We'd like to thank our sponsors who helped make it such a success. Dalton Consulting Engineers were our gold sponsor, and also had a coffee cart there. So many people lined up to get coffee from the Dalton Consulting Engineers coffee cart. Also for Calibre, who are the sponsors for the Innovation Awards ceremony, which I'll show you the winners later on. Position and Spatial Source, our media partners, and also for Transoft Solutions as a sponsor. It was a fantastic conference. We had 24 talks by industry, talks by 12D model staff on all sorts of things on inside 12D model, both 12 and 14. Had 84 talks in the 24 birds of a feather sessions, both 12D model 12 and 12D Synergy 3 being used in action. Also talks on what's coming in both 12D model 14 and 12D Synergy 4. And I'll talk about both of those in this talk. We had an exhibition area, a guest speaker, Dr. Catherine Ball, a welcome event, and the 12D Technical Forum dinner with an entertainer, Jeff Dolan, our Innovation Awards, and over 530 attendees. In our Birds of Feather sessions, there were 4 of them: the design, which is for road, rail, land development, for survey in general, and introducing 12D Field combined for version 14. 3 waters, which is supply, storm and wastewater, and the 12D Synergy Birds of a Feather. In the exhibition area, we had Abstract, BricsCAD, CR Kennedy, Forum 8, Global POS, Innovations, our Stand for Innovation Awards, Position Partners, Total Synergy, and then ones for our 4 rooms, the design, the 3 waters, survey and synergy. At this forum, our opening industry talk was by Nectar on moving mountains to reconnect communities in New Zealand. So I'll just show you some of the highlights from it. It actually had 3 presenters, Charlie Dixon from Christchurch City Council, Stuart Hamilton from Oricon, and Cameron Payton from Riley Consultants. And they made the major talk. And what it was all about was the earthquake, which was magnitude 7.8, which is equivalent to about 8 million tonnes of TNT that occurred in Kaikoura and surrounds in the South Island of New Zealand. And the scale of damage was huge, and it closed both their State Highway 1, the road, and also the main North Rail line, cutting off many, many towns. You can see there just how much the railway lines were twisted, and down the bottom how the road and the rail tunnels were just decimated. The response was fantastic. All the different groups then came together to actually respond to the earthquake, and basically then the North Canterbury Transport Infrastructure Recovery, or Nectar, was formed to look after it. So it's a little bit like Skirt from the Christchurch earthquake, except this time it was concentrated north of Christchurch. So all these groups came together to form Nectar to actually do the redesign and rebuild. They first built a village which had about 300 people could be housed, and to increase it, but there were about 5,000 people involved altogether. And they had to do things like cleaning up all the tops of the slips, clear away the slips, retain slips from blocked roads and rail, repair and reconstruct the rail and road corridors. So first they had to get these things open so that they could start even getting there to work on them. Amazing sorts of things they had to do. And here's a clip to see just how hard it is these people had to work. So these are the sorts of things and hazardous ways they had to just to start off before they could do anything. So there were 200 areas affected, 700,000 cubic metres of soil to be moved, 30 slips. The main rail network was actually cut, and along that line there was 900 sites sustained damage, including 20 tunnels, 59 bridges and a whole lot of embankments as well. And you can see there just how bad the tunnel and the rail were. The challenges is basically uncoordinated survey networks, accessibility to the sites, the risk of rockfall, so you could see there was on the sides of the mountains, and how to actually capture the terrain to even plan anything, and how to manage and distribute all the data for it. For those in Australia, we talk about movements in Australia, and we've moved 1.8 metres in 25 years. That's with continental drift. At Kaikoura, they moved up to 12 metres in all different directions in 74 seconds. So that gives you some idea of the magnitude of the earthquake. How to capture the terrain, they used a whole combination of aerial laser scanning, traditional total stations, GPS, mobile laser scanning, ground-based laser scanning, hydrographic surveys, because a lot of this were into the water for it, and UAV photogrammetry. So they used the full gamut of tools. So there's a whole lot of examples of what they did, and they brought all this data into 12D model to model everything up to start the design. As far as the data, they thought about network drive, but it was difficult to use it. It was remote. You could not a real DMS. So they actually chose 12D Synergy to manage and distribute all the data for the project. So they had the 12D model data, the Office products, AutoCAD drawings, and also PDFs. So the Nectar Synergy system had 240 plus users, 1,200 jobs in it, and this is ongoing, 600 odd 12D model projects, 1.1 million files, 1.8 million file changes on those million files, and 4 terabytes of file changes. So it was a very large system. The sorts of things they did is they bring all this data together and using 12D model to model and construct the jobs. Amazing things were done there. An example here is just a fast bridge. It was the fastest multi-span bridge to be constructed in New Zealand. So it was a 7-span, 144 metre iron gate bridge constructed from the ground up in just 14 weeks. And at one point for the Nectar project, it was consuming all of the available cement in New Zealand. So it gives you some idea of the scale. The administration side, all this debris flow down that have to be modelled and allowed for. So a huge amount of data and material came down. They had to do a lot of flows for bridges and just to make sure it wasn't going to happen in the future, because a lot of this rock and material was sitting there, but was going to come down over the next 20 years. So that all had to be allowed for as well. So they modelled all these things up inside 12D model. The road and the rail were right next to each other at many points, so they all had to be realigned. And actually some of the rail was done first, so then the rail had to fit in around it. So it was not an easy job. A lot of these things coincided and had to be looked at together. Here's an example where you see you've got your road, then your rail, and then the ocean's just on the other side, and huge, huge cliffs. For the project, they used the what we call the SED master projects. They were all the 12D model central engineering database. So all the survey went into there, and then the people were doing their design and putting all their projects in and out of the SED master database, and then using various things like mapping files and that, the data was going out to survey and to be set out and then onto the construction. So the SED central database had all the models, 12D model projects in it. And here's just a bit of a visualization of what they were actually working with. Huge areas of construction. You can see some of these when you can just see the size of the things down there and the people and dongas, just how massive it was that they're working on. So not an easy task at all, in tremendous cliffs and things to work with. So basically the earthquake was on the 14th of November 2016, and their big challenge was to safely open the harbour, road and rail for public access. And in it, 17th of September, the railway was actually opening and running again, so about just under a year later. The harbour was open on the 14th of November 2017, and on the 15th of December 2017, they started having traffic flowing on the main road. So it was a tremendous achievement in just over a year. But still, there's still another year and a half to go of design and construction to complete it. So it's a massive, massive undertaking. It was a fantastic talk that the guys gave. Other talks we had came from people like AECOM, Arcadis, Oricon, Bennett & Bennett, BG&E and Carno, BMT, Boygs, Brisbane City Council, Detailed Survey, Fulton Hogan, GH&D, Jacobs, LD Engineering, Mackay Regional Council, Premise, Queensland Transport and Main Roads in a number of different facets of what they do, WSP, Selenium Preglio, and Total Synergy. So these are all talking about how 12D model and 12D Synergy are being used in the real world. And throughout the conference, so a lot of it on using 12D Synergy 3, what's coming in 12D Synergy 4, and using 12D Model 12, and what's coming in 12D Model 14. You'll notice there is no 12D Model 13. So you haven't missed anything. We're jumping from 12D Model 12 to 12D Model 14. And a common theme was this producing civil BIM models in 12D model. And many of the talks were around producing civil BIM models and how useful 12D model was doing that, and how it was about the only civil BIM product that is really on the market. And using 12D Synergy as a single source of truth for all this data, and as 12D Synergy as a BIM repository for not just the 12D model data, but all the other things that go with a project. Richard Stollier spoke about what's coming in 12D Synergy 4. So this is in the first session. And basically, for those who didn't know, Synergy is a data management for the AEC industry, so we concentrate on that area. So it's easy to use work sharing capabilities, and we use transfer times with intelligent data transfer. So you're working local, we're backing everything up in the 12D Synergy. So you really are cutting down on the network traffic by a huge amount. It works with 12D model, CAD, Office and more. And it's designed for both companies, both big and small. And we had users there who only had 3 or 4 staff, up to people with 300 or 400 users of 12D Synergy at once. We released it first in February 2011, and we've gone through 2 and version 3, and version 4 is being released right now. So the conference will be the beginning of the rollout of 12D Synergy 4. And even since the 2016 conference, our user base has grown by over 300% in 12D Synergy. There's numerous clients now using it from both, say, large projects like the AECOMs, Jacobs, Cardno, and for the Nectar job, of course, down to very small companies with only a few people actually there. And so it covers all the areas, various areas there, government, consultants, surveyors, and now we're starting to have non-12D model customers coming in. So these people don't use 12D model at all, but use Synergy for a lot of their data. A lot of major projects have already been using it. See, from the Toowoomba Second Rain Crossing, which is one of the first big ones in Queensland, the Ipswich motorway upgrade, Rockley to Darra. There were talks on that at this conference. There was a talk on the Toowoomba one at the previous conference. Spruce Highway upgrade, M1 to M3 upgrade. Again, there was a talk on that at the conference. West Connects, North Connects, talks on both of those. Nectar, which we just went through. Mount Messenger Alliance in New Zealand, Transmission Gully motorway in New Zealand. So we had talks on a number of these projects, which we'll be putting up on our websites over a period of time so you can listen to them all. So the highlights are 12D Synergy 4. We focused on speed, usability, connected products, CAD, workflow, spatial maps, and reports and gadgets. So about 600 changes were in there. So basically things to make things much speed, improve the speed, some things that went down, say, from 3 minutes down to 20 seconds. So it's to make it much, much easier on your load on your infrastructure. A whole lot of usability things were looked at, things for check-in, administrating, user groups and so on, a transfer progress bar, my recent items, layouts for searches, work number, and work number space has been hidden away so people don't get confused by what that is. More things for issuing of transmissions, transmittals, and letting people know what's going on, so with cover sheets, naming rules, which are very important, so they allow for people to name things how they want, so it's making it much more comprehensive, so you can look and make it much easier to name those automatically. A whole lot of things on permissions, so who can control read and write data and even see if it exists. You might want even people to know that that data exists. You can now merge across groups and roles and herring, a whole lot of things to make it easier. In V3, it can be a bit cumbersome to diagnose why someone does or not have access, and so there's a simple tool now in 4 to see why users do or don't have access. So a lot of user feedback to make things even better. It already connected to products like MYOB, Xero, Workflow, Max, and Abstract, and a lot of our customers are using those, but we've added a whole lot more things. Total Synergy is now in there in version 4, which is an Australian-owned company for the AEC energy industry. We've also connected to Quick Maps, which is used very heavily in New Zealand. We've also done more work with 12D model for cache customization, so you have data ahead of time, automatic check-in and check-out when opening, so you don't have to prompt anymore. You can check in and check out many projects, you can offline many projects, and you can options to compress data ahead of the transfers to cut down on your transfer time. A whole lot of things on 12D model project templates, administrator definable ignore lists, and rollback of extracted versions of single files rather than whole product. In V3 we supported AutoCAD and BricsCAD, but now we've added in Map 3D, Mechanical, Plant 3D and Civil 3D. We've also added support for more reference types, the sheet set manager and data shortcuts in Civil 3D. There's better reference management in CAD, support for drawing title block registers using Excel or directly using 12D Synergy attributes rather than Excel. There's a new workflow engine, which is all new for V4, so attributes, so you can tell what stage of projects are at, what revision of drawing is on, and so on. So basically the workflow, that's what we had before. The workflow now allows you to model your business and day-to-day process and perform automatic operations. So it's a point and click type of way of putting things together to let you decide what stage you can go to next and so on. So people find that very, very useful for setting up things rather than just having to set attributes before. Spatial maps, we could capture coordinates and things in V3, but now in V4 you can display maps using ArcGIS online. So you can search for jobs using a bounding box, show surrounding jobs, pull in layers from external sources, and search for files near your current job. So you can actually see it there all on the screen, letting you know what's going on. A whole lot of reports and gadgets, so things out of the box to show you license user activity, job details, file change information, and many more. You can also now schedule reports. So you've got these little gadgets you can see, so everyone can see what's going on straight away. So basically 12D Synergy 4, it's starter done smarter. We've taken a lot of the user feedback plus other things and added in just to make it even better for you for the future. And with the CAD thing, we'll find a lot of people coming on board to use the CAD side of 12D Synergy, even if they're not using it for 12D model. What's coming in 12D Model 14? I gave this talk and to say just some of the things. I'll just show you some of the slides for the major things. But obviously, there's over 300 things in 12D Model 14. Some of them were just demonstrated in the Birds of a Feather sessions. When 12D Model 14 comes out, most of them will be in the What's New in 12D Model 14 PDF, and we'll also be running 12D webinars. So one of the things, and this hasn't happened for a long time in 12D Model, but we have rearranged the main menu. So we've taken some things off it, and we've added up the top BIM, volumes, and water. So it flows probably a bit more with your workflow and makes it a little bit easier to get to some things. BIM was not around when we first started 12D Model, whereas now it's a huge thing. And water has now got the three sides to it, where we started off with just a sewer string. With water, the drainage and sewer string has been replaced and called a water string, because it does the three things. And so you'll see that right through. The menus will be changing, and we're now using the word nodes instead of pit or manhole or maintenance hole, because there are things that just weren't covered by those. And link is replacing pipe, because it doesn't just have to be a pipe, it could be just a V-drain. So we've made that change of terminology just to make it easier to talk about things. So you'll see that right through all those menus. We have extended nodes in water strings, so this is not just round and rectangular, but extended nodes. And we have risers for nodes in the water string. So you're now going to have a riser, so you can model it much more accurately. We have set-out diagrams for the nodes, so you can produce all those set-out diagrams you want for a selection of nodes or all your nodes. There are user-defined house controls and more settings for setting them. So everyone has been asking for that for a while. We're supporting the Australian Rainfall and Runoff 2016, and most of you will know that if you're on maintenance, we actually pull that back into 12D Model version 12 so that people can use it now. So if you've got C1 M of version 12, you can run this now if you're on maintenance and have the drainage analysis module, that is. There's a new GPU usage for TUFO calculations, which can speed that up by like a factor of 10. Trimeshes, we introduced them in V11 as a generalization of tins to represent objects that fold back over themselves. And expanded usage of trimeshes expanded in 12, and now they're a fundamental part of 12D Model. And in all the technical forum talks and other talks, BIM, snippets and so on, trimesh are there all the time. So they're becoming a fundamental object inside 12D Model. Because we have the trimeshes now with faces on them, we've introduced a new face snap. So you actually can click right onto a face. What that meant, we used to use F for fast snap. We're now going to call that quick snap and use a Q. So fast snap will be now called quick snap, and F will be for face snap. For BIM, you can now create trimeshes for all sorts of things. You can do them as fences rather than extrusions. You can create traffic lights for them. Here's a case where we're creating trimeshes from a tunnel boring machine, the rings that are picked up afterwards from the where it's going. Trimeshes for pits, for pipes, all sorts of things. Culverts along a string. A heap more things there of trimeshes for use in BIM or civil BIM. And for tunnels, we had the MTF for producing tunnels. Now you can actually form the inner and outer walls of the trimesh as one trimesh. So that's, say, the yellow part. You can also have the inside of it for the volumes inside. So all these strings that make that are independently controlled in the MTF. And the commands can be for either vertical or perpendicular superline, which is super important. Most systems don't allow that. And we also can have invisible faces in there, so you can have it still closed even though it looks open, so you can get a volume for the inside, say, of the tunnel. And you can have invisible faces so you can see into the side passages and things. So it's really much, much easier to do proper civil tunnel work. Bridges can be created as trimeshes. In fact, everything in this image has been created from scratch inside 12D Model, either trimeshes, extrusions, or tins, and so on. So there's very little that you can't create in a civil BIM job inside 12D Model. Another thing we've introduced is what we call cookie cut by polygon for tri-meshes. We have cases where you've got all these tri-meshes, but you only want a certain region of them. So here an example on the right-hand side, you can see a polygon, and we're going to take that and we're basically going to cookie cut through that whole 3D model and produce what you see on the right-hand side. So basically we can cut into tri-meshes. Those vertical cyan lines aren't there, they weren't part of it. That was just to show you where it goes in and out to match the polygon above. So cookie cutting, very, very important. There's also a Trimesh Editor, so we can edit vertices, edges or faces, so you can add, delete, move, make invisible or so on. There's also options in there to the union of tri-meshes, the intersection of tri-meshes or subtracting of tri-meshes one from another. A whole lot of things on tri-meshes. Another big thing there is project settings. This takes a lot of the things we had for defaults, water defaults, the things that started for a new project that you set up once at the new project, but then you save them away with each individual project. So they've all been brought together into the one place called project settings to make life much easier for you. And in that case of the project settings, you can have files of them, so you can change it at any time. So you might have inside of the one project settings set up for survey or design or water, and so you can change to those settings at any time with in a current session of the project. We've also combined the 12DA and 12DXML readers and writers, and they're now up on the file IO menu right at the very top. So you no longer have to hunt down in two different places. They recognize, and you can say which one you're writing out, well, in all the zip ones, and it looks to see for them when you go to read them in. And also there's these anonymous functions. You can now do that on most of these read panels, that you can set them right there whether you want an anonymous function for them or not. It's not just one environment variable. When we write our data, we now have a thing called a hexadecimal floating point format to write out the data. This is an international standard where you can write out the real numbers in a format that comes back exactly as it is, so you don't have to worry about the number of decimal places. We've discovered even when you write some data out to text, even when you're using 17 or 18 decimal places, it still might be correct. So we've introduced this so that people can know exactly what the data is and get it exactly back. And it's an international standard, so for people to be able to read and write it. It means in your file, the rest of the information still is in text, so you can see it quite easily, and the numbers themselves may look a little bit different, but they're still quite, you can read them and turn them back into real numbers. We can read in KML files, read in VISM files. We can a whole lot of things in the attribute manipulator. People keep adding, just send the things you want in the attribute manipulator. It's become a fundamental thing we all use to get attributes into the right form to go out to other products or when we read them in. Just keep letting us know, we'll add things in there. So we've got things like you can set the X, Y, and Z coordinates. You've got a whole lot of vertex properties, point ID added in, a whole lot of areas. You can set the line style for segments, because in 12, you could actually have separate line styles on every segment, just like you can have color as well. They all can be set. So just keep sending us what you want with Attribute Manipulator, and we'll add them in. There are new things for the BIM world where you can set global IDs and where you can concatenate attributes. Sometimes you want to make up an attribute of other attributes, and this now allows you to do it quite easily. A big thing in Australia and the rest of the world is, of course, we're moving from MGA, which is now MGA 94 we had in 2000, then because of continental drift, all our longitudes and latitudes are actually changing, because they all go back to Greenwich as a 0 for the longitude. So basically all our coordinates for longitude and latitude, hence also our easting northings, are going to change, because we moved about 1.8 metres since 1994. Well, we've actually got this in there inside there for version 14, and if people are on maintenance, then we're going to make it pay a base, because everyone's going to need it. So there's two methods, I won't say too much, but one's called a similarity, 7-parameter similarity transform. It's a type of 3D helmet, and it knows longitude, latitude and ellipsoid height to be able to convert it. But there's also what's called an NT-V2 grid, which is high accuracy. It doesn't use ellipsoid height, and it takes just a longitude and latitude to give you the new longitude and latitude in 2020. So both methods are available in 12D Model 14. And as I say, if you're on maintenance, just be part of the base. If you're not on maintenance, it's part of the survey module. We've done a whole lot of things on the plotting, legends for line styles, upright gaps on long sections and cross sections, so you can use gaps in there for text you want to write. A fixed datum for cross sections people are asking about. And for all of these, you can pre-calculate the number of pages before you plot to see how many there are. You can draw uprights at the back of the plot, so you can, everything else is drawn on top of it. And similarly for the long sections, there's a lot of other things as well, but basically very similar sorts of things. So a lot of things you've asked for. In the PPFs, we now, because we can calculate the number of pages before we go, we can have it a dollar end page number. So you can say 1 of 20. It'll automatically calculate it for you. So we've added a lot of things to look at attributes, model attributes, string attributes, project attributes, and you can have multiple time formats in your files. So it makes it much, much easier. In fact, in your PPF itself, where you put in values for your title block, you can actually use dollar variables in there. So you can actually don't have to go into the actual title block file itself. You can actually pass these through if there's something already in the title block file that takes a bit of text. So it makes it much, much more flexible. We've got a new perspective PPF. This allows you to plot a perspective view, and you can do two things, and both together if you like. An image of what's on the perspective view, so it's like a 2D image, or you can create a 3D PDF. And of course, that's only if you go to a PDF. And it's got margins, user-defined title blocks, whether you use a view or a view favorite, background color. And you've also set a high res factor. People might be aware of this, but you can do this now for a perspective OpenGL view or a planned OpenGL view, where it actually will make it a much higher resolution than what you see on the screen. And so you can do it here, so you can make a, if you want to then blow your plot up, if you're doing an A1 plot, here's very high res image. So here's a perspective PPF of, say, an image on the left would be, if you see a 2D, you just see what's in the frame. On the right is a 3D PDF. And if you've got that, then inside the PDF reader, you can start rotating the building and so on. We've also added a section plot PPF, and so this is just plotting what you see on the section view. So not like long sections and cross sections, exactly what you see on the section view. And again, it's got margins and user-defined title blocks. So all the sorts of plots you've got there are now available. And we've got a node diagram plot PPF to do the water nodes. So again, that's there so you can make pages and sheets and things and control it all. Another thing we've done for version 14 is we've totally rewritten the MPS. So we no longer use the word sheets, and it's basically the old MPS in V12 on steroids. And it's called multi-page plots is what we now call it. And basically things are both broken into a book, page and chapter, so you can group things together, and so you can do something at the book level that applies to everything underneath it. And also there's special chapters in there which you don't know how many pages there are. So there's a special chapter for cross-section PPF. And so you then give your start and end change, and it automatically works out how many pages it's going to need. And it also takes care of that inside the total number of pages that you've got. So you can have long cross-section PPFs, long section PPFs, drainage, plot frames, and node diagram PPFs. And so for that chapter, it'll work out how many pages there are and keep total of the whole lot. We've beefed up Super Inquire, Face Snapper's now in there, creation date of elements. Again, what people want for Super Inquire, just let us know and we'll put it in there. And for a lot of people, surveyors mainly, when you tap on the panel, it's taken as an accept. So just let us know what you want there. I think for version 14, the Super Inquire will probably be the default one, which it wasn't in version 12. A lot of extra things in chains. Again, you just keep coming back to us about what you'd like and we'll add them into the chains. So there's a lot of things for checking whether things exist, to write out view favorites and view positions and so on. Now 12D field, this you'll hear a lot about later on, not in this talk, but basically what we've done for version 14, if we've combined 12D field set out and 12D field pickup into one merged product. So basically all works together. And there are a number of talks at the forum, and we'll have numerous webinars of this down the track when we release version 14. BIM has been the one, we learn more about it every day. I mean, anyone who says they know everything about BIM, I think is something, I don't think that's true, but we're learning more and putting things in there as you get more experience with it and we get more experience with it. ADAC, which came from the IPWA, is actually a BIM system. People don't realise it, and anyone who supports ADAC properly, so they only use the ADAC XML file as the one source of truth, they're moving down the roads of doing a full BIM system. And for version 14, we'll support ADAC 5. We've already supported 4.1 and 4.2 in version 12 C1M, but now on version 5 is in ADAC version 14. For ADAC 5 is in V14. With BIM, the tri-meshes go out to BIM, all of the extrudes, or most of them go out to BIM, and we've got the 12D tri-meshes from 12D objects for things that it's not quite so easy to make a special IFC item out of it. So all this data now can be put out to BIM. And we put this in 12, the IFC 2x3 step reader. Step is just a particular format. There's step and there's XML. And anyone on maintenance, they were able to get that in version 12 C1M. And we've actually done a webinar on that, and we are running training courses. So that was something for 14 we brought forward to 12 because we found people need it right now. And we've read in a whole lot of examples. These ones are from ArchiCAD, being from a variety of products. In there, people didn't realise that the IFC does have things like attributes like 12D. They're called property sets. There are special ones that they have, which are called P sets, and there are other ones which you can define yourself. So property sets, P sets are a special type of property set. And basically in 12D model, you can group things together to go out to basically named user-defined property sets. So you set them up in using attribute manipulator, and then they go across. So you're able to all that sort of work with user-defined property sets from 12D model. And you can then send them out to products like Celebra. You can see there it's got a tab called 12D model and pavement. They were two user-defined property sets of data we sent out to them. Global ID is also one thing they've got, which we don't use very much in the civil world, but there's a special thing that's unique in space and time. And now when we write data out to a BIM file, an IFC file, we retain the global IFC. So if you reuse the data, it can keep that global ID. In civil work, we tend to use string names. Everything is given in types of string names, but in the vertical BIM world of buildings, they don't have such a thing. So they've got this unique thing they use to track data, but they're horrible long things, 16 characters as alphanumeric long, and so it's much easier to talk about something as being RS01 or George Street rather than this horrible long name. But you need it to work with a lot of the vertical BIM systems. We also now working towards, a lot of the data we put out had to be just as arbitrary BIM data, but now you can set a element type and we can write that out. So we write it out, say, as a wall or a window or a door, those sorts of things that we can now set. So when they go into another product, they know exactly what it is. Obviously, there aren't many things in straight vertical BIM that apply in 12D in the civil world, but as BIM and IFCs move forward, a lot more things are going to be introduced. So in version 14, we've got a read and writer for not only 2x3, but also IFC 2x4, which is now, has been released, and IFC 4.1 or x1, which is coming in the future. So we can write that data and be able to read both the 2x3 and the 2x4. And for IFC alignments and tins, we read and write, they're part of IFC 4x1. So this is expansion of IFCs where they're finally starting to put civil objects in there. So obviously if they're putting them in, they're not in there now. So anyone who tells you they are, is telling a bit of a fib, but we've been working with IFC alignment and tins, and we can already read and write them for the future. And here's a pilot project we did with a TMR on reading and writing IFC alignment 1.1, which it's called, where we've written data out for an alignment and then read it back into 12D model. So not everything can work, but it does take strings, alignments, and tins, but not super tins. So there are things missing, but it's going a lot better than the IFC that everyone's using today. Another thing we're introducing for 14, so this is almost the last thing, is a thing called model tree. But it works for models, tins, and functions, and this is where you can actually have more like groups of things. So not just a model name, we can say things like stage 2 concept, apply road 1 triangle. So you can actually group things together and add things to the view and remove things from a view by a group. Obviously then we can no longer use the model name as the name of the .model project on the disk, so then we have to use a special thing. So it's not as easy to see what your models are when you just look inside the project, but that's probably a good thing because then you don't think of getting your little hands on them and wrecking them. Finally here, we're allowing in version 14 a user-defined main menu. So you can define all the things on the top menu and what's in sub-menus, so you can make it look however you like. We've always been a bit scared of this because how in hell do we support it and train it? But basically we'll do that in all our standard menus, and we'll have a button on there to get back to the 12D Model 14 menu. So when we talk to you, if on support questions, you'll be able to say, oh no, this is where it is on our standard menus, because your menus may look totally different to us. So that button to go, look what it does look like on 12D Model 14, that's our sanity button for our support team. There's also now, where before you had to go to places separately, we've got things now for help. The documents there, the PDF, our reference manual, which is also our online help, but also the programmer language manual there, the what's new summary, and the getting started for design and surveying. So they'll be installed with 12D Model, but you'll also be able to get access to all those PDFs from the help menu. And of course, everyone should know about our 12D Model forum. That's going to be open to everyone on maintenance. We're posting questions. You can get help and get macros. And for all those people who are at the technical forum for the 3 days and actually are on maintenance, that's where we'll be posting the version 14 technical preview version, so you can get access to it and start having a look and play with it. Also, the webinars and YouTube videos we put out, there's over 500 videos there. We'll be having webinars on the new features in 12D Model 14 and also 12D Synergy 4. There'll be more training videos, more training courses, as well as the webinars, and let us know what you'd like to hear in that area, because we'll keep going on it. So a lot of the material for the coming things will be given, not just in this quick thing, but will be given as webinars for you, and then they'll be posted up as YouTube videos. And most of the talks in the main room of the conference will also then be posted over time as we get them back and filter them, and they're huge, so we have to chop them down so we can fit them on YouTube. They'll all be posted as well, so you can go and see most of the main talks from the technical forum. And for our release and timeline for version 14, the technical preview forum is when we first really spoke about it. Anyone who came to that technical preview and is on maintenance will be releasing probably on the weekend a technical preview version through the 12D Model forum. So you'll be able to there download it, then you get onto us to get a nodes file, because it needs a separate nodes file, and then you'll be able to start having a look at it. And commenting back to say if there's things missing or whatever, because we mightn't have thought of everything, and then we'll release it in October, the actual 12D Model 14 C1A, and then it will continue to develop like we have other products over the next 2 years. There'll be a C1B, C1C, with maybe bug fixes, but also extra functionality. So all of those who were at the technical forum, they'll be able to get the technical preview version hopefully this weekend. Just finally up, the ancillary events we also had with the conference, apart from the talks, on the Sunday night, because we do it start on the Sunday, so people arrive on the Sunday, and then on the Sunday night we have welcome drinks and snacks from 6 to 8. And here's the people coming out of the conference in the top left-hand side. It's 6 p.m. to actually get a drink and some food. And basically there we had our 500 odd people there just talking for a couple of hours and catching up with what they've seen and with the 12D staff. Then on Monday afternoon we have a guest speaker, and this time it was Dr. Catherine Ball, where she spoke on when drones go wrong and other stories of the future. So she had some very interesting things to talk about how drones are being used or misused, and there's some worries about the future, about what could happen with drones and what we have to worry about. On the Monday night, we actually have our dinner. So this is the dinner, and the room was packed. The room was packed, and we also have our innovation awards in that time. So basically, there's all sorts of people, and we will start posting some of the pictures of attendees up there, but it was a fantastic night. We also had an entertainer there, who was Jeff Dolan, which is the gentleman's out of New Zealand, although his accent doesn't sound like that. So he was emceeing and kept us entertained as well. We also had awards for the Reseller of the Years. Now, because the conference is every 2 years, we're giving out awards for the financial year 2007 and then financial years 2008 for Australia. That's just finished. So the 2007 12D Synergy Award was for 12D NZ. And the Reseller of the Year for 12D model was EXDS. So we handed out awards there. And then for the 2018 12D Synergy Award, in this case, was 12D Queensland. So this year they topped 12D NZ. So we award, and 12D EXDS Extra Mesh Solutions were again for the second year in a row our Reseller of the Year for 12D model. So they've been doing a fantastic job. New South Wales is just going crazy. New South Wales and Victoria both are going crazy, as well as New Zealand. So it's they've been working very, very hard. So it's great to see. So they're all our principals and resellers of the year. And I say 12D in Australia is breeding for the future, but on there on the left-hand side, you've got Lane and his son there, James up there from New Zealand. So they're doing the same things over there. Now, the Innovation Awards are a very important part of the dinner. The Banishing the Drafting Demon, which I introduced only for 2016, we've continued it on, and Megan Dillon from Mackay Regional Council won that, and LD Engineering, Steve Hodgins were highly commended. Then there's the Drainage, Sewer and Utilities. Next year that's probably going to be called the Three Waters. Duncan Whiteley from WSP won that, and Ashley Wilkie from Spire was highly commended. The Survey and Construction, Sam Check from Tetris Consulting, and many of you know Sam. He's put lots of macros and posts up on the forum, so it was great to see the work he's been doing. And highly recommended was Rowan Hunt from ARC Surveys. With customisation, David Healy and Philip Stoddard from J. Wyndham Prince here in New South Wales, and Seb Woodland from GH&D. Seb also had lots of macros and things he's done to customise 12D model. But J. Wyndham Prince, it's great to see them continuing, winning awards at each of our conferences. And for design and visualisation, that was a team of Ed Wilson and Philip Campbell from Oricon. So they're looking very happy there for our winning. And then Peter Zimmel from HIG was highly commended. The 12D Synergy was Stuart Cook from BG&E and Cardno Joint Venture, and he gave a talk on the project that they put in for this. And Daniel Winter from Elliott Sinclair was highly commended. From government, these are so that we've got some just awards here that aren't major awards, but more or less like highly commended in a way, because it's very hard to compete against the huge ones. So we had one for government, which Peter Murray from Brisbane City Council got. And then we have a small business. So Mal Pika from Tipec. This is a very small show. He actually won that, but Mal had some great things there. So just because there's not many of them does not mean they don't do fantastic stuff. Medium business, Bryce Hoffman from Land Surveys. So they're doing a lot of things on picking up underground utilities. And for large business, Aaron Krenkel from Calibre Group, and Calibre Group also were the sponsors for the Innovation Forum. So that's all the smiling Calibre people down the bottom there. And then the overall winner for the Innovations Award, which is a fantastic entry it was, from Arup. So from Noel Brady, Danny Wilcox, Jeremy Harrington and Darren Stewart. So that was and they gave a talk on that as well, which will be up on our YouTube over the coming months. But that was, congratulations to Arup. It was a fantastic entry. These awards, I hate them every year now because they're so hard to judge and so close. But and all of these people here, for each of these awards we mentioned there, they'll all get a free attendance to the next technical forum in 2020, because they're all just such great entries. It's just hard to tell them apart. But the Arups one definitely was a fantastic entry and the overall winner. So there's some of the people who got the Innovation Awards. So basically, that's towards the end. The forum theme was pushing the boundaries, which, as I mentioned, was how we're expanding all areas, but did follow on from a lot of our other talks. If you go back in the past, our first conference in 2005 was closing the loop. That's how there was one sort of data should be used everywhere, from initial pickup survey, design, construction, then as built and fed back into the loop. The next one was taming the electronic model, and that was in 2007. Well, now finally the electronic model is with all of us. Then the next one in 2010 was banishing the drafting demon, and people think I hate draftsmen. That's not all. They should be design draftspeople. What we're trying to banish is people just having to sit there, do repetitive drafting. Things that can be automated, we want to be able to automate them. And designing is much more fun than just start CAD tracing. Then bringing it all together in 2012 was just how all these things were coming together, all these different things in the one product. Because 12D model is one product. It's not little myriad products that sort of pretend to talk to each other. It is one, it has been brought all together. And the 2014 was using 12D right from the beginning of a project to the right to the end construction as constructed. So using it from go to woe. The 2016 one was mining your data with 12D, as everyone's starting now to use attributes and get information out of your data. So it's no longer just the designers or someone using or surveyors, everyone's now getting information out of it. And so this theme then followed in for virtually from all of those to say pushing the boundaries, just pushing into whole lots of new area like the civil BIM, AR&R 2016, GDA 2020, further with the 12D field, just going in tunnels, whole new area of tunnels we've pushed into, and with Synergy, of course, pushing into all new areas with Synergy, things like adding all the extra CAD and that in. So that was a theme, and all the talks sort of really showed just how far we are pushing the boundaries as a major, or the world international, probably the leading civil BIM product. And the same with 12D Synergy. It hasn't been around as long, but already it's world leading in that area. As far as how we went and how things have been going, for our last financial year, which just finished, we've had record number of 12D model sales. I mean, I didn't think it could keep happening, but we've now sold more than any other year. A record number of 12D model trainees. Our trainers have been flat out around the world training. A record number of 12D Synergy sales. So again, another record, and a record number of trainees for trained people for 12D Synergy. So it's been fantastic. And of course, this time it was a record number of attendees of the 12D Model Technical Forum. Just look at that crowd. I mean, there was over 530 people. We're going to have to get a bigger area to hold them next time. The auditorium was just packed. So we have to look at how much bigger for next time. But for everyone who came along, the time just went so quickly. It was so fantastic to have you all there. I would have loved to have had more time to talk to all of you, but we're just overwhelmed by the numbers. So thank you all for coming. It was a fantastic technical forum. I think it was our best ever, the record number of people. It was fantastic. So Alan and I and all the staff from 12D and our resellers just look forward to seeing you at the next 12D Technical Forum in Brisbane in 2020. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. The recording of today's webinar will be available on our 12D Model YouTube channel in coming days. We'll pop it on the 12D Synergy one as well for those subscribed to both. Our next webinar will be Survey Utility Modelling on the 22nd of August, so register for that one now if you haven't already, and keep an eye on our emails and social media for more great upcoming topics. If you need to contact us in the meantime, we'll pop some contact details on the screen. That concludes our presentation for today. Thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you at future webinars.